Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Speaking Freely with Sally. I am Sally Buemi, the third selectman here in North Haven. I've been serving on the Board of Selectmen for about 12 years now, and I started this show back in the fall of 2019. Some of you might remember it. I did 4 or 5 shows, and most those shows were basically about town affairs and candidate interviews. And then, of course, COVID hit, and like with everything else, it came to a stop. But in recent years, every now and then I would run into Walt Mann, who kind of runs things here at NHTV, and he'd say to me, "Hey, Sally, when are you going to bring back your show, Speaking Freely with Sally?" So finally, here we are. This is my first show of round 2 of Speaking Freely with Sally. So welcome. Of course, some of the shows are going to be about town government, but equally important to me is I want to highlight the great things that people are doing here in North Haven. I talk to a lot of people. Many folks are disgusted with current events, and they say, "Sally, I don't even watch the news anymore." So I want to do a positive show about unique businesses here in town, or about nonprofits that are working hard to make a positive difference in our community. So that is my goal. Now tonight, I want to highlight a fairly new and exciting business here in town. My guest is Michael Stearns, the owner and manager of School of Rock, located in the heart of North Haven at 72 Washington Avenue, right next to the post office. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks for having me tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. I was excited when I first saw that your business was opening, your music school, because I think music and the performing arts in general are just so important and offer an essential, great outlet for our youth in our community. So please, Michael, tell me about your background and how you ended up bringing your school here in town.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a musician at heart. I've been doing it for many years. I was in lots of musicals and things through high school and through middle school and all of that. But as I got into high school, I took my first vocal lesson in high school. I had started guitar years and years ago when I was like a little kid, and it just never clicked for me. Making those chord shapes was too hard, playing all the strings too hard. So I took up vocal lessons in high school. I was trained to do opera and classical music, and shortly after I was like, no, that's not what I'm into. I love rock music and everything. So I took those skills and I brought them to School of Rock Madison, who was open at the time. That was maybe 10 or so years ago. And I met a bunch of kids there that had similar interests to me. I started bands with students there. And I brought, I was in just rock cover bands for a little while in high school. I joined a Led Zeppelin tribute that I'm still part of today. And then went to school for music to start. Then I kind of got more so into business. So I was doing music business down there, entertainment management, as they were calling it. And when I graduated, I came back here and went back to work for School of Rock Madison as an instructor. So I was teaching vocal lessons, I was teaching piano lessons, at that point drum lessons, and bass too. I had picked up a lot of things. And shortly thereafter, I had sort of decided I want to do my own thing. I want to check this out. And we started talking with the School of Rock franchise a little bit more. And they said there was a need for another location in Connecticut. So we started scouting around and we stumbled into North Haven. And we decided right over there on Washington Avenue, that's a perfect spot for us. This seems like a great place to be for this business.
Well, that's great. I have to be honest, I did not realize that it was a franchise. You and I have met a couple of times before today, and so I've learned a bit. How many franchises or schools are there in Connecticut right now?
I believe there's 8 or 9 of them now in the state. They range all the way down to the Fairfield area and then up through West Hartford.
Okay. Well, I think it's great. And you mentioned, you have a great location right in the heart of town on Washington Avenue. you're like a hidden gem there. You know, Washington Avenue has a lot of restaurants and gas stations and banks, but there you are with this great, unique school. So you are a franchise, which means you must have to deal with corporate people at some point in setting it up. And what type of input do you get from them? And do you have any discretion in varying from their concept at all?
Yeah. So the big thing that they offer to us is their music curriculum.
Okay.
And their music curriculum is very different than a traditional place. What we do with the students is we take them, and there's a one-on-one lesson every week. They work with us one-on-one on either guitar, bass, drums, singing, or piano. And then in addition to that, they're in a group rehearsal with other students of similar age and skill level. And this is really where the corporate element comes in. They use this approach they've deemed song first, is what they call it. So instead of sitting down with random guy in his basement or, in a lesson studio and learn music theory and scales and how do I, play the proper fingering technique on the guitar and all this, we teach the kids a song first. We say, okay, you're going to learn Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, or you're going to learn I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett first, so that they can be ready to get into a group with other students who already know that song, and the win comes faster. They say, oh, I already know how to play a song. Like, I had one lesson, I can play a song on this instrument already. It's a huge win for them. So corporate really steps in to give us that material to use in their curriculum that they've set up, which is really unique and incredibly beneficial. Their marketing department, too, is quite strong. Their brand is getting stronger. So,
right. So it seems like that approach to musical instruction would capture the kids right away, because they're seeing, maybe quicker than in standard musical instruction, they're seeing an actual song and the fruits of their labors right away. So that is what seems to differentiate your school from the standard musical instruction. What is the most common age group of your student base?
So we range pretty vastly in terms of the students that we cater to. So we have group programs for students as young as 3 years old. So we start really young, and that age group is more of like just getting exposed to music and learning about music and playing like rhythm instruments, because that's the easiest thing to do with them at that age. And then we have group programs for like 6 and 7 year olds, and then 8 to 12, and then 12 to 18. And it's kind of building on the skill set that they have as they get older, and also maturity, of course. And then we have a whole adult program too. So for anybody 18 or older, I mean, we have students as old as 70 years old in the school. And there's a whole adult band program, as well as just lessons for them too. But mainly, I think that we see a lot of students more so between the ages of like 8 and 12, 13 years old. That's where we're mostly populated right now. Though we do skew pretty young too. We have a lot of really little kids in the group in the school right now too.
Okay, that's great. Are most of your students from North Haven, or are there students from area towns as well?
Yeah, so when we started, I noticed it was a big influx of like North Haven people who saw us and were just driving down the road and were like, what is this? What are you guys doing here? But since then, in the last 6 to 8 months, I'd say we've really expanded out. Now there's people coming from Cheshire, from Hamden, from New Haven, from Wallingford, Durham, and North Branford. People are coming from all over the place, and it's really awesome to see the communities just grow and grow as we kind of spread ourselves out a little bit.
Well, I mean, obviously this is your business and your livelihood, but here in North Haven, I think our school district offers a great music program, but in some communities with budget constraints, sometimes music programs get cut a little bit. So I think it's so important that there is this opportunity that exists outside of a school, because a lot of kids learn music in their school district, to really fine tune their craft and learn in a different setting from school. So yeah. I wish you the best of luck. I'm so thrilled that you're here. How long have you been in North Haven? I'd say about a year?
Yeah, we're right over a year. We celebrated our 1 year anniversary in October of 2024.
Okay.
So we're looking closer to almost a year and a half now, which is just very surreal. I didn't think I'd get all the way there. It's crazy.
Now, you said that you might even have some students up to 70. Well, that gives me hope, because that's near my age, and I am a amateur self-taught drummer, so I'm going to have to think about getting
You have to
a
come
lesson.
by. I tell everybody all the time. I'm like, you're never too old to learn an instrument. There's never a better time to start than right now. Some of the coordination may take some more time, but man, it comes in.
Now, I know you're called the School of Rock. You have a great logo. But do you include any other types of music in your instruction? Or
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. So the School of Rock, obviously, we have a lot of rock music. We teach the kids a lot about a lot of those classic rock bands, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, all that stuff. But we do different shows throughout each season. So our seasons typically go for like 3 to 4 months. The goal is to have rehearsals with those students for 3 to 4 months and then get them on stage playing at a real live music venue. Like they're big. It's like a recital, but it's way cooler than that because it's a rock and roll show.
wow, that's fantastic.
So those performance groups do different themes. So a lot of stuff is rooted in like classic rock. So like we've done a British Invasion show.
Okay.
We've done like an 80s show that is more, you get like Def Leppard in there and Guns N' Roses and stuff. But then we kind of break out into some other things. So like we've done a Motown show. We've done a pop show. We've got Southern rock that we want to look at too. But next season, we're really spread out. We've got a Beatles show going on, so like the oldest stuff.
Wow.
You have to do it. You have to.
I wore my John Lennon T-shirt for you. So
Which I appreciate. It's awesome. It's vintage. I love it.
yes,
I love it.
I bought it in Greenwich Village in 1981, just a few months after he died.
That's incredible.
So, well, I'm going to have to come and see some Beatle performances.
You'll have to check them out when they play.
Yes, because I'm so glad you've been listing some bands, and I grew up in the 60s and early 70s here in North Haven, and so I was a big Beatle fan. The Beach Boys, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, later the Moody Blues, and Led Zeppelin, of course. I would have to say that Nights in White Satin and Stairway to Heaven are kind of like rock anthems to my generation. And then later, as we progressed in the 70s, Elton John, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
So it does my heart good to hear you emphasizing these bands that I consider from my era. In fact, I just want to show really quickly, I told you I had these.
It's incredible.
These are 60-year-old Beatle albums introducing the Beatles and the very famous Meet the Beatles. These were purchased in 1964 in Caldors in Hamden, which is where all North Haven kids went to buy their albums back then. They were probably less than $2. So it does my heart good to hear that you are teaching a whole new generation this music. What is your male-female ratio of your students?
So that's really interesting, actually. I always expect that there's more male students, and there still is, because you're like, the boys, they want to beat on the drums and they want to play guitar and be really cool, just like everyone was once in all those big rock bands and everything. But really right now, I'd say we got like 60% male, 40% female. Most of our singers are female, which is sort of to be expected, but we've now got a whole slew of like female guitar players, female drum players, and bass players too. It's really awesome because we've been able to make like all girl groups sometimes too.
Okay.
And it's awesome. They're playing like metal and stuff. They're playing Iron Maiden, and it's like all girls in there, and it's awesome. I love that.
That's great. And you said that you will bring you have these different seasons or seasons, do you call them?
Yes.
Okay. And I would think that it's quite a challenge to match up the kids into the various groups. You want to make sure they're going to gel. How do you handle those kinds of challenges?
It's quite the process.
Yes.
You have so many students to think about, and they vary immensely in skill level and in age. So we have a set of like requirements for like our beginner students to meet so they can be in what's called the performance program and do these shows. And then they all fill out a preference sheet. So like this season, we're like, okay, here are your 4 shows. It's a Beatles show, it's an arena rock show, it's a neo soul show, and a 21st century indie rock show. Rank your preferences. We're going to talk to your one-on-one instructor and see what they recommend you for. It's a lot of collaboration amongst everyone on the staff to determine what's right for their student, so that they're in the right show to, 1, to make them a better player, but 2, to challenge them, even if it's not something that they maybe was their first choice. But it's difficult because the groups are also very big. So it's not just one set of instruments, right? It's not just one drummer, one guitar player, one bassist, and a singer. You've got 4 drummers and 4 keyboard players and 4 or 5 singers and like 6 guitar players. And we mix them all together. So we run multiple songs at the same time because we have some space to do that. And they all are like casted like a musical would be on specific parts. And we put them into the room with different sets of kids on every song so that they get to experience playing with lots of different types of students, whether they're more advanced than the other students in the room or, just beginner by comparison to what the other students have going on. It's a balancing act because you got to give people what they want to do and also challenge them, so it can be challenging, but it always works out really well. The students always end up really loving the show that they're in.
That's exciting. And I'm sure they love the performance.
It's the highlight of what we do.
They must feel like they're real rockers out there.
Yes, they do. We've played so many great venues. We were playing at Crystal Bees previously, if you're familiar. It's out in Southington, or was out in Southington. They had like a bowling alley in there and an arcade and then a full music venue and a restaurant and everything. But they had since closed. So we went up, we had our end of season show on last Sunday. And we went up to New Britain to Trinity on Main. It's just a theater inside of a church, and it was beautiful. They love it because it's a big stage and it's loud there and it's just so much fun. And that's the highlight. It's what we do,
And I'm sure the parents just love it. Also.
Oh yeah, the response from the parents every time that they come in the next week, like we're dealing with that this week, where they're just all coming in and they're like, that show's amazing and it's even better every single time the kids play, and there's such growth and improvement. They just love it. They love to see their kid shine up there,
I took a tour of your facility yesterday. I was very impressed with it. You have a lot of different one-on-one teaching rooms. How many instructors do you have on your staff?
Currently, I keep hiring because we're growing so quickly, and we always need more people. I think I have 14 or 15 instructors right now. It's getting crazy.
That is crazy. And one thing, again, as an amateur drummer, I just wanted to make one comment. I never had lessons, but I remember bringing my nephew, who kind of picked up the drums because he started playing my drums in my basement, and bringing him to his lessons. And there was just the one set of drums and the instructor, and of course my nephew. But I noticed in your drum rooms there were 2 sets of drums facing each other. Is that a more modern or unique or School of Rock franchise technique of teaching drums, playing with the student?
Yeah, it's a much more modern thing. If you speak to any of my instructors over there who are drummers, they'll tell you that they learned on one kit and the instructor was just kind of looming over the top of them and like, you do this rudiment and you do this fill and this is what we do. Now, I mean, it's so easy to put 2 kits in there and just kind of bring the volume down a little bit, and hook up a tablet with some headphones, and now the student and the instructor can play together and learn together at the same time. And I think it's easier for the student to see visually like what the instructor is doing around the kit, so they can kind of mimic more so than try to be explained how to do certain things,
Right. Yeah, so that really struck me that you had a couple of rooms with double drum kits, and I thought that must be very loud.
Yes, it can be. It can certainly be.
But it's exciting. Now you mentioned what other instruments? Obviously, there's drums and all sorts of guitars, uh, but you do teach vocals.
Yes.
And are there any other instruments that you offer?
Yeah, so we offer keyboard as well as bass and electric guitar. But we also were lucky and fortunate enough to have somebody on staff who can teach saxophone. And saxophone's not typically in the School of Rock curriculum, but we've been able to integrate a couple saxophone students into our performance program shows. So last season we just played a Pink Floyd show, and we had the saxophone parts on like
Okay.
Money and everything. It was awesome. It's awesome. So
Well, that's great. Saxophone is a very popular instrument, and so that also, you could do Springsteen, you could do a lot of things with the saxophone. I wanted to talk a little bit about the business end, but another favorite musical era of mine besides the 60s and early 70s is the 50s.
yeah.
Do you go that far back?
We sure do.
Okay.
We make it happen. One of the songs that we teach a lot of the beginner students is Tutti Frutti by Little Richard.
Okay.
That's an oldie but a goodie, let me tell you. They love that song. We were always so concerned, like, how far back can we go before the kids are like, this is terrible, it's old, I don't like it. The moment we play that song, and that song's very old now,
Yeah.
the kids love it because it's
Yeah.
high energy and it's 3 chords, it's easy to play, and they have so much fun playing that song.
Well, that's great to hear. Again, I'm coming from the New Haven area. I'm a Five Satins fan. The Five Satins from New Haven. Their classic "In the Still of the Night" was recorded in the basement of St. Bernadette's Church
Wow, I
in New
didn't know
Haven
that.
in 1956. So I'm glad to hear that. So you might want to consider "In the Still of the Night."
I'm thinking about it.
And make that New Haven connection. Freddie Paris was from New Haven and lived in Hamden, I think, for many years as well. The lead singer, the lead
really?
of the Five Satins. So you're making me so happy talking about all of this older music. Now, of course, it must have been very courageous to start your own business. You're a young man. How are you adapting to not only working at a school and just going there and teaching is one thing, but now you're you got to pay the bills, you got to pay. How is that going for you? It must be a learning experience every day.
It certainly is.
Yes.
I'm 25 now,
Oh,
but
geez.
we opened when I was 23.
I think my sneakers are 25, but I won't.
You
No.
know.
Okay,
So,
so-
a lot of this has been a big learning curve. I mean, just managing people is a big learning curve. I was an RA in college, but you can only do so much, you know.
That in and of itself could be quite the learning experience.
And it was.
Yes.
But
I
yeah,
remember.
managing people, getting the bills done, and making sure financially we're stable and I'm not spending too much money on new gear as much as I'd love to buy a new drum kit,
And what has your experience been like starting a business in North Haven? Because obviously there were steps you had to take, approvals you had to get, so hopefully that was smooth for you.
It was excellent. I'm from Cheshire. I'm not
Okay.
gonna dog on anybody, but
Okay.
I can tell based on my parents had a business in Cheshire, and they mentioned to me how difficult it was to kind of go through the process of getting open and everything. But as soon as we came here, I mean, this was easy. This was like the easiest. I was like, "Are you guys sure this is a hard process? You guys made it so seamless, and you're so welcoming, and everybody just talked us up, and they're like, we want you to get open as quickly as you can. It's gonna be such a great thing for North Haven, and we can't wait to see you guys open. Make it happen."
Well, again, I had that great tour of your facility yesterday, and it's just a great place with all of the different rooms. And you told me that your dad actually helped with, or was in charge of a lot of the interior construction.
That's right.
So there's nothing like having strong family support when
Oh,
you
yeah.
start a new business. I started a business in town many years ago and had a lot of family support. So I like that you had a lot of family support as well.
Yeah.
And it's really designed beautifully. So what would be the first thing that someone listening would want to do if they think they have a child who would be interested in going to the School of Rock? What would they do first?
Yeah. So best thing you can do is you can jump on our website and fill out the little form on there that says I'm interested in taking a lesson, or you just give us a call or stop in, whatever's convenient for you. We do a free trial lesson for everybody.
Oh, great.
So you can come in. It's 30 minutes long. You check out the school. You get a tour. You jump into one of our programs. You take a one-on-one lesson for free, no charge, just to see if you're into it first. Because what we do is so different from the typical thing, and we want to make sure that like, hey, I love this before you sign up for it.
Right. I just wanted to go back a little bit. You said that you have some students as young as 3 or 4.
Yes.
Now they're not performing songs, but
No.
With the older age group kids, but that must be very challenging to teach little ones.
And that's a long, I don't know, I'll make it brief, but our 3 to 5-year-old class is called Little Wings, and it's a 45-minute class. Those kids don't get a one-on-one lesson, they just get the group because they're little,
Right.
and they're chaotic. So they just come in and they just get exposed to music and learn about music and get their hands on some rhythm instruments and just be a part of music. I started running that class when we opened, and I had no experience with like early childhood education like that. And I'm a musician, so I'm like, this needs to sound good,
Yeah.
And the reality is it doesn't sound good. And that's just what it is. But we're there more to have fun and play games and stuff. But what was really nice is my sister, Lauren, is trained for that. She's in elementary school. She has her master's in elementary education. So she came in to help us out, and now she runs our Little Wing classes and everything. And she knocks it out of the park. That's where it's at.
That's fantastic. I met Lauren, and she's great. Well, I think that we are close to out of time, so we've got to wrap up. I wish you the best of luck, continued
Thank you.
success. So if you have a little one out there or a preteen who interested in music, please consider the School of Rock at 72
Washington,
Avenue,
yep.
In the heart of town. Thank you very much for watching tonight, and stay tuned for future broadcasts of Speaking Freely with Sally. If you would like to be highlighted on one of my broadcasts for what you're doing in town, my email address will be showing up soon on the credits, and also contact information for this fantastic School of Rock. So thank you very much, and good night.